Well, folks, here we go again. And I'm sure by now you know the drill. The same dance we've been seeing in the past few years. Apple make a move, then Samsung jumps in, then Apple strikes back, then Samsung, and so forth. Now, you may be wondering, well, what's the problem with that? Well, I'll tell you what the problem is. It's the same darn move every single time. No real innovation, just a lot of smoke and mirrors wrapped up in the same old package. It's like they're telling us, hey, this new device is so much more powerful than before. Just ignore the fact that it's practically identical to last generation. But still though, despite quote-unquote looking like the previous model, there are quite a few things to unpack here, and we're about to do that. But at the same time, it's becoming like playing a game of spot the difference, except with barely anything to spot. But still, buckle up, folks, because we're still gonna give it the good old try. This is Apple's Mini 7, the all-new iPad mini, and by new, I mean new in the same way your coffee feels new after microwaving it for the third time. Yes, we've got a brand new chip inside, but from the outside, you'd be forgiven for thinking it's the same old mini you've been tossing into your bag since what, 2021? We have the same flat back, the same flat sides, and oh, look, a single rear camera and a single front camera. Just riveting stuff, right? And by the way, the camera still stayed on the short side as opposed to the long side like the rest of the family. I mean, hey, maybe Apple's onto something after all. If it ain't broke, why fix it? And by the way, this is not all bad, right? If you are leaping from last generation to this generation, guess what? That upgrade will have you stick with your accessories, right? They still fit. You don't need to buy a new case or screen protector, assuming you have an extra one, or that fancy stand that you had sitting on your desk gathering dust. It still works with that. So Apple is saving you some cash here, people. It's awesome to always see that. Win-win. Well, except not all the way. Because the one accessory it is no longer compatible with is the Apple Pencil 2nd generation. If that's what you currently own, well, now you have to upgrade to the Apple Pencil Pro, or at least the USB Type-C model. And oh, new colors. Apple threw us a bone here by adding a couple of new shades. We've still got the space gray, which is what I prefer, but now we've also got a lighter blue and a lighter purple joining the party. It's like Apple's decided to freshen things up just enough to say, look, something's different. We also have new configs here, finally starting at 128 gigs of internal storage, followed by 256 gigs and 512 gigs. Along with that, you have 8 gigs of RAM for each config. Remember, with the previous gen, Apple was only offering 64 gigs and 256 gigs of internal storage, and that was comboed with 4 gigs of RAM. Sticking with the same design has its perks, sure, but it can get old fast. You know, you start to wonder, are they doing this on purpose? I mean, we get it. Apple loves its flat sides and minimalism. But how about shaking things up like what they did with the new iPad Pro line? I'd be all for it. Instead, here we are, same old story. And speaking of sticking with the same thing, let's go ahead and talk about the display. Yep, still an 8.3-inch liquid retina panel and still capped at 60 Hz. 60 Hertz. 60 Hertz, people. I know it's 2024, but Apple's still saying, yeah, nah. 120 Hertz is just too much fun for this little guy. I mean, come on. We could have found a middle ground here, right? 90, you know? Maybe 90 Hertz would have been enough to shut me up about the display. Now, all of this said, you know, it's a nice display. Well, let me be specific here. With a resolution and brightness capped at 500 nits, just like the previous gen, the user experience here is certainly fine if you are, you know, chilling indoors, scrolling through Instagram. When outdoors, however, if the sun just happens to say hello, well, you better brace yourself for an adventure. You're going to be squinting the life out of your eyes, even with that anti-reflective coating. At least that was my experience. It's as if Apple should have attached a "please stay indoors" sign to this little guy. And oh, the infamous jelly scroll issues from the last gen iPad mini, I'm sure you all remember that issue we were all having. Well, I'm here to report that it is still there. I mean, Apple never admitted to those wibbles and jelly scrolls to be an issue in the first place. So here we are, they are still there. Before the launch of this little guy, there were leaks that were pointing to the fact that there were going to be hardware changes that would fix the issues. Now, they won't stop you from using your iPad, but just be aware that it's still there. All right, let's go ahead and dig into a reason why you might care about this little guy here. Power. The iPad mini 7 packs Apple's A17 Pro processor. And folks, it is a sizable leap in power. We're talking jump from the A15 5nm architecture to a 3nm architecture. By the way, clock speed up to 3.8 GHz. And what does all of this mumbo jumbo mean? Speed. Like blink and you miss it top speed. I've put this thing through its paces, from editing videos and opening up large files to running high-end games, and it's been buttery smooth. No lag, no stutter. Frankly, performance? Easily my favorite part using this tablet so far. You wouldn't expect something this small to pack such a punch. Now, if you are into mobile gaming, then this bad boy here is ready for you to throw any of your heavy titles at it. It could definitely handle it. In my case, Call of Duty Mobile, Asphalt 9 on iOS, you name it. Zero issue whatsoever. And honestly, if you're going to be gaming on a tablet, the iPad mini's form factor is pretty attractive. It's definitely the way to do it for a lot of people. It's light, it's portable, still packing major fire under the hood. This is how you do power and productivity, on the go, on a small device, on a small form factor. And speaking of that productivity, although the Apple Pencil 2 support was dropped, support for the Apple Pencil Pro is actually a pretty neat upgrade. You now have access to all of the fancy new features like hover to preview your strokes and that haptic feedback that makes you feel like you actually drawing on paper. And let's not forget the squeeze the pencil to bring up a menu. For creatives, this might be a nice upgrade that can, help their productivity. Now, that said, if you're not into sketching or note-taking, this upgrade might feel as useful as a screen door on a submarine, right? Not useful at all. Now, let's talk cameras. Yes, we still have a 12 megapixel rear camera, but thanks to the new A17 Pro chip, we've got Smart HDR4 now. And the front camera? Also 12 megapixels with center stage, but as I mentioned earlier, it's still awkwardly sitting up top in portrait orientation. Battery size remained at 5078 mAh and so far has been okay, although I do need to do more testing. And then there is the new big feature, and I'm sure you've guessed it, Apple Intelligence, which, by the way, as of the shooting, and I'm pretty sure as of the publishing of this video, will not have launched yet. I just hate how Apple has been pounding and using a not ready feature as a selling point. Anyways, it is not out yet, so there isn't much I can say about it, except it's supposed to make smarter notifications, beefed up Siri, and a bunch of other AI-driven tools. I'm not really holding my breath here. So, is this a worthy upgrade? The simple answer, no. It is not if you are coming from last-gen iPad mini. On the other hand, if you are part of the niche of creatives who prefer the iPad mini, then yes, because the support for the Pro Pencil is a plus, performance upgrades, that's another plus, and all of that might just make it worth it. Otherwise, yeah, you don't need to upgrade this unless you are coming from an older iPad mini. Anyways, what do you think? Is the iPad mini 7 a fresh coat of paint on an old house, or is there enough under that hood to make it a worthwhile upgrade? I want to hear from you. What is your take? Let me know in the comment section. I'm certainly hoping that this was informative. Please do me a favor, hit both the like and the subscribe button there if you haven't done so already. Share the video if you know anyone who'll be interested. I'm going to catch you in that comment section. I'm also going to catch you in the next video. Up until that next video, of course, as always, stay safe out there.